sometimes go on either YouTube Shorts or TikTok, and I come across videos that pique my interest. And I kind of want to talk about these things and expound on them a little bit. And the expanding of these points that I want to make is based on factual or data that I've seen. It's also based on anecdotal evidence that I've experienced personally, as well as anecdotal evidence that was relayed to me by others in their experiences as well. And so a lot of times the information that's conveyed either on YouTube Shorts or it's on TikTok, a lot of times what ends up happening is people will confirm through either data that they researched or realized, or they may have questions. And the answers are a lot more simpler than people realize. And I think that's something that people need to come to realize, is that a lot of times they just don't think it's as simple as it really is. Like, for instance, you'll get some people who are conspiracy theorists who will think these extremely nefarious or almost metaphysical type of belief system, and that they are doing these metaphysical type things in order to control the world, when really it's just greed and capitalism, right? And so a lot of times, a lot of people will get to the point where they think, oh man, well, these people have this secret evil agenda. And it's like, yeah, it's just greed. It's just greed and capitalism. That's pretty much what it is. And some people may be like, well, that's the thing. I think it's an oversimplification. And it's like, no, not really. It's not really an oversimplification. I can't talk today. An oversimplification is really, humans are not that complex. I think some of these people who are at the top, I think we give them more nefarious credit than they deserve. They're just a bunch of greedy people. Now, by the way, I also got to say this. I almost cussed. You didn't tell, but I almost did. I can no longer cuss on my channel. Why? Because according to the new terms of service for YouTube, any type of cursing at all will get you demonetized. So if you notice that my language is a lot more cleaned up than it usually is, it's because I don't want to get demonetized. And so a lot of us who are content creators, especially those of us in the independent left who are on here on YouTube, you're going to notice a lot of us cursing a lot less. Now, that's great, especially if you're around more sensitive ears. But if you're just wondering why are they not cursing? If you start to notice that, it's because the new terms of service now updated. It updated Sunday that cursing, any type of curse word, the A word, the F word, the S word, the B word, C word, D word, N word, those words, yeah. So you guys notice me doing this. You guys notice me clean up my language a lot on RBN, on interviews. I also will clean up my language for interviews too, because I don't want to get people who also have shows on YouTube. I don't want them to get demonetized because of something that a guest says. So just to let you guys know that. But unfortunately, that's the way it goes with the powers that be. They just want to own everything. That's basically what it is. Anyway, so One of the things that I wanted to go to first was there was a couple of videos that came across my view, and it really it it more puts more of a point on the things that are in my head, and I'm wondering if it puts more of a point on the things inside your head. What some of these people on these different videos say, and it really goes in line with socioeconomic status, things like that. And I just want to get your views on it. I want to get your opinions on it. So after this first video, I'm going to go to the chat and I'm going to ask you guys what your thoughts are on what this young lady says. I'm going to go to the first video and then we'll go on to the next one. I think I have 3. Yeah, I have 3. So, but we'll get to that really quick. So let me share my screen really quick. Hang on. Let me make sure. Okay. I just want to make sure that I get past the part where she's cursing, because I got to be careful even when in videos that I'm playing if they curse. So hang on. Let me make sure. Okay. Hang on. I'm just trying to get past. Okay. Hang on. All right. Okay. Okay. So I just have to make sure that that I get past the part where she curses, because she curses a couple of times in the beginning. And if I share that part, then guess what? It is it for me. So I'm going to share this really quick and let's get to it. Boom.
Torture. In this class, we were told that when a country refuses to provide the basic needs for their citizens, meaning adequate food, housing, and health care, they are torturing their citizens. It becomes political torture. And if someone's being tortured, what are they going to do? They're going to try to fight their way out, or they're going to lay down and, if you know what I mean. This country is putting people in survival mode more and more every single day. The amount of wealth that some of these people have out here, and you see all these other people on the street, even though all these houses are empty, I'm not putting the blame on the people. It is these big corporations' fault for not hiring a good prevention laws people. Y'all suck. I shouldn't be able to walk in any store and point y'all out in under like 3 minutes. This country does such a good job at brainwashing us to the point where people feel like it's our responsibility to not get fucked over. When
See, it slipped. Damn. Yeah. So she says when we're not the ones effing ourselves over. And the primary point is, and I got to be, God, this is so annoying, but I have to be very careful. And so, soundboard with bleep. I wish, that's money I don't have to spend right now, unfortunately, but hopefully someday. But what are your thoughts about that? Especially regarding how it's political torture. Because excuse me, the part about political torture, denying us a lot of these things that are necessary. Like, what point is there to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness if you're gatekept from the provisions that give us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What is the point? Like, for instance, I have to pay a water bill every single month for utilities. So I have to pay electric and water in this household. Why in the world am I paying for water? If I go 7 to 8 days without it, I die. Why? Why do I have to pay for it? Now, you'll have some apartment communities that will say, okay, water is included in the rent, things like that. Technically, you're still paying for water. Like, I can get it if you're paying it out of your taxes, right? If it's paid out through taxes, then fine. But why am I having to come out of pocket each month for water? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. How in the world? Why is there? Because that thing is that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness always has an asterisk by it. Whereas life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, but you have to spend money in order to have that right. And here's the problem. The thing about rights is if there is a barrier financially to having them, when does it stop being a right and becomes a privilege? Like, does that make sense? Am I crazy? Because it's just like, and I'm not saying like filet mignon and caviar we should have a rights to things like that. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like the basic things: milk, eggs, bread, grains, fruit, vegetables, water, a simple roof over your head, with a simple kitchen, bathroom, you know. And then here's the crazy part. We have these billionaires that are basically living off subsidies, right? They get these subsidies and then they also steal the wealth of workers. And basically they're living high off the hog for free. But they have so much excess to the point where they could do that for all of us. We shouldn't have to worry about these things. Like, there should be a standard of living amongst everybody. But somehow people assume that with being lazy. And it's like, yeah, if you want extra, okay, yeah, fine. You have a job, you work for it. Okay, cool. But I'll put it to you this way. Anything that's considered affordable in an absolute means is free. Anything that's considered affordable where it's a certain price is not absolute. It's relative to whom it's affordable to. A brand new Cadillac CTS is affordable to a millionaire. A Maybach is affordable to a millionaire or a billionaire. Affordable is subjective, right? And so let's say so some people will say, well, that's what food stamps are for. But then you have some people where it's like, okay, yeah, they get food stamps, but then their rent's sky high. But then they say, well, let's go for Section 8 or housing assistance. But what good is it if the Section 8 or housing assistance, if their line is so long, if their waiting list is so long, you can't even get in? And so then you end up on the street. So then what? What about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What about it? What life? What liberty? What pursuit of happiness? The J Mom says, thank God it's not gas too. We don't have, there's not a lot of places here in Florida that have gas lines. There's a few, but not a lot. But we, like, when it comes to heating and cooking and drying your clothes, it's mostly just electricity. We just use electric here. But yeah, gas, you also have to pay. Yeah. Creative Experiment says, I wish they taught me how to apply for unemployment in school. Yeah, they don't teach us that. Where what he says, that was always a word we gravitated toward in French. Emerson. No, we weren't cursing. We were just learning. SG says it's called ration in some countries. Basic things is given to all. And here's, you know what the funny part is? A lot of times you'll have a lot of people who are anti-socialists or anti-communists that will say, oh my God, they're rationing. And what they don't realize is there's some countries where they're going through a lot. And so to make sure that people don't die, they ration so that, because some people will be like, well, it's my right to hoard the food. And it's like, no. Not when it's at the cost of lives of other people. No, you're not going to hoard all the food at the cost of other people's lives. No, you're not. That to me is akin to murder. It's like, okay, so I'm going to cull the herd by shooting and gunning down a bunch of people so that we can have more. Okay, so that's bad, but then denying them food because you feel it's your right to have more than everybody else, that's okay? Am I getting that right? I have a right to have more food than anybody else because I have all this money that I hoarded from everybody. What? There comes a point where, I'll put it this way. A friend of mine told me this years ago. This is when I was deeply religious, but he said this quote, and I will never forget it. True freedom means you do not encroach upon the rights of others. I'm going to say it again. True freedom means you don't encroach upon the rights of others. If your right to hoard wealth, to hoard food, to hoard resources away from people so that if they don't have it, they can suffer and die, that's not freedom. Now you're encroaching upon the rights of people for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So if you're going to do that, then guess what? That's criminal. To me, that's akin to taking an AR-15 and shooting a bunch of people in the head. Because now you're encroaching upon their right to life. You're hoarding of their water, their food, their housing, their education. That is encroaching upon their rights. Some of the biggest criminals in our history are the Vanderbilts, the Morgans, the Waltons, the Bezos, the Musks. These are some of the biggest criminals in history because they're literally encroaching upon your rights. And there's 600 plus more people that are in the billionaire status, and then there are thousands more in the 100 millionaire status, and all those other people that are literally encroaching upon your rights. And people will scoff and look at me and go, well, they earned it. No, they did not. They did not work that much in order to earn that much more than you. Good to see you, Yepex. Creative Experiment says we deserve free stuff, but we're told we don't. Look, if capitalists had their way, they would charge you for the air you breathe. Each breath costs 50 cents. 50. $1. $1.50. $2. If they could, they would do that. That's how capitalism works. Good to see a reality revolution. Reality says, I declare world peace. Happy New Year. Good to see you, reality. All right. Jenna Colby says, so much ish that is not okay allowed to pass in a normal standard. So sick of the normalizing of horrors. Absolutely. I agree. Good to see you, gamer. Gamers also up in the chat. Good to see you today. SG says Section 8 is a joke. I don't qualify since the income level to get it is higher than what I earn. Yeah. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. In this country, in this nation, you have to make around $25 an hour and up in order to have what we like to call a living wage, right? $25 an hour, and that's working full time. By that logic, then if you make, give or take, $55,000 a year or less, I consider you in poverty. I do. Mm-hmm. I consider that poverty. Because you cannot make less than that in over 90% of the counties in this nation and survive. You can't. And so for people to sit here and hand wring about nobody wants to work anymore. No, we want to work. We just don't want to work for slave wages. We want to earn our surplus labor. And like someone said earlier, I think it was in a TikTok I was watching. Yeah. They're literally taking, because they aren't paying people a living wage, they're taking the living expenses of those of us that are poor and putting it on us, on the taxpayers. They're putting it on our government. So guess what? If they're already doing that, if we're already paying for it, we might as well do it for everybody then. If not that, then guess what? Then take these corporations, make them all co-ops. Except for the most essential ones, like the healthcare industry, the fossil fuel / energy industry, transportation industry, I think should be nationalized. But other than that, yeah, worker co-ops, make them all worker owned. Because people, man, people are suffering. And it's a systemic problem, not a individual problem. Reality, bars reality. Happiness requires your children to be fed. I'll add on to what you said. What good is ending child poverty if you don't end poverty in general? Because the parents also need to be fed too. Also, why do we care less about people after they turn 18? I think that the value of a human being is the value of a human being. Chris Hayes says most Americans are okay with their government stealing oil and killing brown kids as long as gas prices are low and there is a constant supply of cheeseburgers at their local McDonald's. I wouldn't say that most are okay with it. I think they are propagandized or brainwashed to think that it's okay because they're told, oh, we're over there to fight the terrorists when the United States is projecting. So they are brainwashed into thinking that it's okay. Some. And I think that's one of the reasons why some people either are that or they're apathetic to what's going on because they're not even paying attention to that because their life is so destitute that they don't even have the mental bandwidth to look at these things. And that's what's sad. They don't have that. Yeah. Now it's not the time. The presidential elections are coming. That's every year, man. They say that every year. I see you, Rick. Let me stop. All right. So there's another one that I want to get to. Let's Shimon. Let me see. I want to go to this is in the same line. And I'm going to go to this. Let me see. See, I hate that I can't. Wait, can I scroll back? No. I hate that. All right. So let me share this really quick. You guys remember the movie The Princess Bride? Remember the guy that said, inconceivable? Well, he has a few things to say. And I thought this was very interesting. This is. Hang on, let me. All right. Let's go here. This is going to be along the same line of what I was just talking about, but this is also a good theme to go with. So let's go.
Do you ever think of the utter absurdity and strangeness of the fact that all over the civilized world, the working classes are the poor classes? Go into any city in the world and get into a cab and ask the man to drive you where the working people live. He won't take you to where the fine houses are. He will take you, on the contrary, into the squalid quarters, the poorer quarters. Did you ever think how curious that is? Did you ever think of the utter absurdity and strangeness of the fact that all over the civilized world, the working classes are the poor classes?
Cheers. Did you hear that? The absurdity that the people who work the most have the least. Think about that. The people who work the most have the least. To people who value justice and fairness, why? If you think that capitalism is the best system that we have, why in the world is it that we have a system where people who work the most have the least? 40% of homeless people work either full-time or part-time. A lot of people who live in poverty, who aren't out on the street, they also work. They work very hard. They will work multiple jobs just to keep themselves with a roof over their head and food in their mouths. But they're working long hours. It's extremely hard. And yet, they're the ones living in squalor? What? Sounds to me like meritocracy is a myth in this system. That's what it sounds like. Because I'll put it to you this way. The sun revolves around the sun the same amount of time as it does for you, as it does for Warren Buffett. The earth rotates the same amount of time as it does for you and I, as it does for Tyler Perry. We have the same amount of days. I'm pretty sure that some of these people who are ultra rich, they get their sleep in because it's healthy. Some maybe get probably between 6 and 8 hours. They probably don't use the bathroom that much more than you and I do. They probably don't take that much more time to eat more than you and I do. And yet, somehow, the amount of money that they get is way higher. And I'm not talking about 10, 15, 20 times. I'm talking about 250, 275, 300 times higher than you. They don't have 300 times more hours in a day. They don't have 300 times more weeks in a year. They don't have 300 times more time in a year than you do. They don't have 300 times more energy in their bodies than you do. They don't. So why in the world do they have 300 times more wealth than you? Are they just that much smarter? No. TLDR, no. Sorry. So what is it? It's greed. Let's go back. Let's continue.
Go into any city in the world and get into a cab and ask the man to drive you where the working people live.
Mm-hmm.
He won't take you to where the fine houses are. He will take you, on the contrary, into the squalid quarters, the poorer quarters. Did you ever think how curious that is?
Right? You know, it's funny. People talk about, oh, we value hard work. But the thing is, the people who actually do the hard work are actually the ones who are the poorest. Hi, welcome to my channel. Have you subscribed yet? I got another one that I'll be showing in a second, but let's go. I see what you said, Bryce. I am not showing that on the screen, but I see what you said. Nick O says the Grand Nagas representing for his capitalist sin by reading Henry George. I heard that he's said some pretty base things and believes some pretty base things. So I'm not exactly sure if he I don't think that I'm getting the impression he might be a class traitor. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Rick Solis says Wallace Shawn is interesting, came from a very rich family, but they were class trading socialists. Oh. conceivable. Oh man. Yeah, he has a unique voice. And you know what? It's interesting. Okay. Ooh, excuse me. So remember the movie The Incredibles, right? If you guys haven't seen it, you guys need to see it. It's one of the best Pixar movies ever. I enjoy it as a 38-year-old man. I still enjoy that movie. It's beautiful. Anyways, and the fact that they took 14 years to do a sequel, that's a crime in itself. But I digress. So, in The Incredibles, there's a part in the beginning, spoilers, where he actually plays the boss of Mr. Incredible in an insurance company. And he basically plays this PMC jerkish type of manager that is worried about the profits of the company instead of the people. And he plays that to a T. And of course, he gets his behind handed to him, which is funny in the movie. But the thing is that I think he played it so well because if he truly is a type of person that is a class trader, then he was probably reflecting, what he has a disdain for. So that's just a little bit of a thing to put out there. But yeah, I've never really had any issues with anything that he's said or done. But I don't follow him that much, but he seems like a chill guy. So, I rock with class traders. Bryce says rich people don't talk or don't work as much. They just talk. Yeah. Yeah. You see, Wadi says Wada Shan is a character actor who has a long resume. I remember him as Zek, the Grand Nagus in DS9. The way he admonished Quark was hilarious. Oh my goodness. Yepx says, I have to abide by Social Security's monetary gainful activity to not lose my benefits because I, like many, can't work 80 hours a week to get it above water. Working that much is inhumane. Same. I have to do the same. Yeah, I remember him in Clueless too. That was fun. It does? Interesting. Powdered donut, you say? Is that what we're calling it now? Powdered from Powdered Donuts? Mm-hmm. By the way, don't use alcohol wipes to wipe your mouth. Ow. Anyway. So. Oh, wait. He was in Capitalism, a Love Story. Have I Wait, did I watch that documentary? I don't remember. I'm going to have to get into that and watch that. Capitalism, a Love Story. JB, please ask your fellow RBN comrades if we can set up a channel on the Discord to talk about our struggles with welfare and Social Security. I am also struggling with the restrictions. I mean, I can bring it up to them, definitely, about having a channel on Discord to talk about, struggles with Social Security and welfare. My problem is I'm not on Discord hardly. It's like I have it, but I just don't get on there. Like I don't know. It's like it's like just certain social media apps that I'm like I just don't get into that much. But yeah, we can definitely. I'll bring that up to them. Thank you. Yeah, it's just the lighting. Yeah, like, I just got finished eating some fried chicken. Okay, so there's a next one that I'm going to bring up. And oh wait, let me check and see. Okay, just checking on Rockfin to see if there's anybody else commenting. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show. This is going to be interesting as well. This one was tough. This one made me go, oh, snap. So, those of you who are those of us who are in our 30s, we may have some memories of being around people who may be special needs growing up, and they're being like they're like limited to or cast off to one side of school, and you rarely ever see them, and then it's like once in a great while you'll see the special needs students. So there's an interesting history with that, and someone on TikTok actually expanded upon it. Let's go. Let me see, make sure. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen really quick. And this guy is pretty cool on TikTok. He shares a lot of good information basically daily. And he always starts it off with, hey, good morning. So, yeah. All right. So, let's go.
Oh, you make such a good point. I got to expound on that.
Okay. So, the comment here he's responded to says, they even do it to their own neurodivergent offspring. If you don't assimilate, you are trashed and rejected. So, he's answering that comment. So, let's go.
Okay, so what happened was, before the year 1984, Black women, women who spoke Hispanic, white women of poor means, and women across the board who had physical disabilities or mental disabilities or challenges were systemically and systematically sterilized, forced to live the rest of their life not being able to reproduce. And those with some mental disabilities were lobotomized and then shoved at institutions for the rest of their lives. While children who didn't meet white standards were often euthanized. All that stopped in 1984. By 1994, we had a first generation of kids who had grown up knowing that they were different and had a name for it. They called it ADHD. It's also the first time in world history, well, in American history at least, that women of color weren't systematically sterilized anymore. I'm not saying it doesn't happen anymore. I'm just saying it's not a recommended practice. By 2004, we had our second generation of kids who had grown up not only knowing about their ADHD, but also knowing about their autism and their neurodivergence. And they had the tools to deal with these things. That's just the second generation. By 2014, we had our third generation of kids, the first to grow up completely with all the tools they need to handle their mental, physical, and emotional differences. Now, here we are in 2022, and there are people saying things like, I've never seen so many autistic people in my life. I've never seen so many neurospicy people. It's gotta be the vaccines and the food. No, we just quit killing them off. The kids born in 2014 are the first generation of kids to be celebrated openly and unabashedly for their mental, physical, and emotional differences. Oh, You make such a good point. I got to expound.
So basically, that's how bad our system was. That the practice of sterilizing and euthanizing people who have special needs mentally, it stopped the year I was born. Sad, isn't it? That we actually were doing things like that. And it makes you realize that there are a lot of people who are neurodivergent who says that they did a thing they like to call masking, where they learn to mask themselves so that they won't appear neurodivergent, so then they can blend in with society with the rest of us neurotypicals. When in reality, that was a coping mechanism so that they can survive. I liken it to us Black people code switching in order for us to survive. Now, those of you who are white, you may not know what code switching is. But code switching is basically the way we, especially a lot of us Black people, we will switch up our tone, our language, even our mannerisms, a lot of things in order to be less threatening, more appealing to people, and especially in white spaces, especially in white professional spaces. And so that code switching happens a lot. And so while we may be with our friends and family more down to earth and chill, we have to dress it up for people who are in the office space, the more professional space, especially for those who are less melanin abundant than the rest of us. So this also happens in a sense with people who are neurodivergent. And the thing is that you have an influx of a lot more people who are coming out as neurodivergent because, like the gentleman said, they're not being euthanized anymore. They're not being put away in these mental institutions anymore. Now we're learning about them and we're adapting, and we're seeing that there may not be anything particularly wrong about them. It's just their brain works in a different way than the rest of ours. And so this goes to show that because it's not necessarily profitable to have people who are neurodivergent working for us, they may not be as productive as those of us who are neurotypical. That's the issues that we see with capitalism, is the fact that they see them as valueless. They see them as lacking value, so therefore they put them away or they euthanize them, and then they're like out of sight, out of mind. We don't want to see them. When they don't think, they don't realize that people who are neurodivergent also have value. They also are just as valuable as those of us who are neurotypical. And this is the problem with the system, is that it sees someone and says that if you can't produce for me, then guess what? You're gone. You don't have value. And one of the beautiful things about the waking up, that fact that people are becoming more woke, see, I'm using it in the proper form, is that now people are saying, well, no, we can't do this. People have value. We have to learn and find out what's going on with certain people and then adapt so that they can also have a life full of happiness and freedom, and have a life full of joy and being able to just live and thrive. That's what it's about. See, socially, we're becoming more progressive. The only problem now is economically, we haven't gotten there yet. But hopefully, as we continue to have these conversations, this is why I say like the stream, so that it gets put out there more, then more people will be awakened to, oh, we need to get to the economic aspect of it too. It's just like when everybody was talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and they talked about the racial aspect about coming together. They always quote the "I Have a Dream" speech, right? But they never quote the "I Have America." The Tale of Two Americas speech. They'll always talk about, oh man, black people and white people, we need to come together. They'll always talk about the social aspect. But when it comes to the economic aspect, when Dr. Martin Luther King said, yeah, we need to come and get our check. Or he talks about, yeah, people need to have more economic equity and equality in this country. Everybody wants to overlook that. When he talks about how terrible the capitalist system is, people want to overlook that. So we're moving ahead further on the social aspect, which is good, because we need to look at people who are neurodivergent. We need to see them with more respect and more dignity. We also need to look at people who are women, both cis and trans, people who are non-binary and femmes and masks. We need to look at them with more respect and dignity. Also, people who are either immigrants, people who are native born, people who are Black, Hispanic, Asian, white, and especially people who are disenfranchised because of this system. We need to look at them in a more kinder light. And so because of that, this is one of the things that we're doing. And I think the next wave is a more economic consciousness, which I'm happy about. So, yeah. But that makes a lot of sense to me. Creative Experiment says California was sterilizing prisoners until 2014. Oh my God. Wow. You guys actually think I look like him? I do. He's got great skin. I need to work on. I'm trying to work on my skin regimen. Trying to get mine like his. Jay Burke says, give them the Ritalin, methylphenidate, speed drugs, big pharma solving problems. Yeah. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll pump people full of medications. And the thing is that is neurodivergence a bad thing? Or is it just something that's different that we have to acclimate ourselves to? Different ways of processing information in our minds. Yepek says capitalism contributing to many mental and physical health problems with how poison our food and water is, air too. Yeah. Nico says code switching is also important as a first generation immigrant. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Yeah, we act like you to get the job. That's basically what it is. In order for me to get hired, I can't be myself. I have to act like you. Not you, but, I'm just speaking in general. I have to act like you in order to get the job so that you take to me more kindly. Even though I could do the job and I could do it well, but in order to convince you that I can do it, I have to act like you. Because obviously you already have the job. So, of course, you're going to see somebody like yourself and you're going to think that, oh, well, they can do the job. when I don't have to act like you in order to do the job, but I have to in order to get the job. Yepek says, I mask all the time. I have to force myself to do certain things. Wow. That's interesting. Corner Ursa says, demonstrated and sorry to bother you. Yeah. Wadi says, hearing my mom and sister switch their vocal patterns when on the phone with a stranger, like customer service, is always wild. I probably do it too, but it's easier to notice something happening with others. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I have to do it too. How you doing? This is James Fauntleroy. I'm calling to check on my schedule for this evening. Yeah. Bryce says, I have to turn the black off. We off stream, we talking crazy and kicking it. Yeah. Yeah. SG says in some countries they have reservations for jobs for special needs people. Yes, but at the same time, some of these jobs, they also pay them less than what they should than they pay people who are not special needs or neurotypicals, which is not fair. Because if they can do the job just like a neurotypical person can, then they should not have a difference in pay. That's not fair. But unfortunately, that's the way it is in this country. Yipper99 says special ed classes are smaller, which I believe is better. That's also true, but at the same time, I don't think you should be limited to classes with special needs. I think all class sizes should be smaller. Because I literally I almost failed algebra until they put me in a smaller class. I was failing algebra when I was in 10th grade. I think I was failing algebra in 10th grade. They took me out of that class and they saw that I was failing. They put me into a different one with a smaller class. It was supposed to be this new program. I'm like, new program just to put me in a smaller class? Anyway, so they did that. And I went from failing to getting, I think, an A- in algebra. So it wasn't that I wasn't smart enough to learn it. It's that I needed more personal attention in order to get me to where I needed to go. But yeah. Shout out to all my people who are neurodivergent. Shout out to all y'all because y'all deal with a lot too.